Hi guys, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and a very good day everyone. So today we will discuss about the chapter making the most of classroom time. In this chapter, we will discuss about the issue of time and time management at school. How many hours students need to be in school? Who decide how many hours that the student actually need to be in school? How many hours students actually learn in school, engaging in learning with the teachers in the classroom? How does the teacher overcome factors that disrupt the academic learning time in the classroom? This chapter will reveal all the answer for the question just now. Also in this chapter, by knowing different types of time will help the teacher to fully utilize thus creating the effective learning environment and optimizing the usage of time with the student. So, without wasting any time, let us move on to the first point, which is mandate time. Hi guys, moving on to our first point, which is mandate time. Before I proceed any further, let me ask all of you a question. Have you ever go to school before? Of course, right? If not, you will not be here today. Okay, have a think who is the higher authority that asks you to stay at school for a certain period of time. Have you ever wondered that? It is the Ministry of Education who asks the school to be in certain period of time. Okay, that certain period of time that you need to stay in school is what called as mandate time. Okay, the mandate time is included with recess, roll call, school activities, celebration, and many more, as long as the activities is held in the school session. Okay, let us look to the definition of mandate time, which is the time that the state requires for the school to be in session. Okay. Actually, this definition only applicable to America and certain countries. Okay, why? Because America and certain countries allow the state to make the decision how many hours for the student need to stay in school. However, in Malaysia, the Ministry of Education is the only one who will decide how many hours for the school to be in session. Okay, for the definition, if we use the context of Malaysia, is this time the Ministry of Education required for the school to be in session. As we all know, our country today is facing a pandemic, which is COVID-19. It is very poor for the students today because they cannot experience face-to-face learning, and it is something to ponder about how the education for our young generations. So I will explain how the mandate time is held by the higher authority during this pandemic. So Ministry of Education is still the one who controls the mandate time for school. However, it is advised by the KKM how the school should be held. It is the KKM who advised to the Ministry of Education how many hours should be the school should be in session, and the Ministry of Education will give instruction to school. Then after that, we will look to the number of cases. If the cases still high, then the KKM will give a new advice to the Ministry of Education, maybe change the mandate time for school. Such an example, for today, the mandate time of school of most school have been reduced because to prioritize the safety of the student at school. Okay, moving on to the next point, which is available time. What is the meaning of available time? Available time is the time remaining from mandate time. Okay, the formula for available time is mandate time you minus with time of absence of the student, special events happening at school, half days. From this, you will get available time for students at school. Okay, actually, the available time is where the learning and lesson period is happening. To be more clear, let me show you the example how to calculate available time. Okay, let's say the mandate time for student for a week is 30 hours. Okay, look at the table. We have recess 30 minutes per day. We have roll call 20 minutes per day. We have assembly 50 minutes per day, and lastly we have celebration 120 minutes. Okay, how to calculate the available time? Firstly, you need to change all the units into the same units. And so in this example, I will show you. I will calculate in minutes. So I will change 30 hours into minutes. I will time with 60. We'll get 1,800 minutes. Okay, this is the mandate time. How to calculate the available time? The mandate time, which is 1,800 minutes, minus with the recess time, 30 times with 5, because recess occurs 5 times per week from Monday to Friday. Then minus with the roll call session 20 minutes per day, so 20 times with 4 because happens from Tuesday to Friday, which is 4 days. And then minus with the assembly time, which is 50 minutes because it only happens in Monday. And for the celebration time, minus with 120 minutes. So after subtracting, you will get the answer of 1,400 minutes. Change it to hours by dividing 1,400 with 60. You will get approximately to 23 hours and 30 minutes available time per week.
Okay, so now let's continue to the next part, which are the rest 3 types of time, which are the instructional time, engaged time, and productive time. Well, Mr. Amir already explained well on the 2 types of time, which are mandated and available, and I hope you understand his presentation. Next, I will explain about the instructional time. Okay, so what is instructional time? Well, instructional time is the time that is actually used for instruction. Actually, instructional time is linked with available time like Mr. Amir present. For example, the available time for you as a teacher to spend time with teaching your students in the classroom is for 42 minutes period. However, some portion of the available class time must be spent on non-instructional activities. So, what is non-instructional activities? Actually, the term non-instructional activities mean time set aside by the school before actual classroom instruction begins or after actual classroom instruction ends. Non-instructional activities include those duties that are not directly related to the instruction for teaching and learning. For example, like taking attendance, collect lunch count, checking assignments, and others. So, this means that not all 42 minutes you spend on the instructional for teaching and learning. Great. So, some of the portion of the time you already spent on taking attendance, distributing materials, and collecting homework or punish the misbehaved students. Therefore, schools are responsible for the students where the students are required or expected to be actively engaged in the classroom activities. Instructional time, also known as the actual time a teacher's teaching in the classroom. That means during that time, we must only do the process of teaching and learning that leads to classroom instruction. Well, as we know, it is not easy to manage time in classroom, right? This is because there are a lot of problems that suddenly arise or uncontrollable. So, more learning time is dissipated due to the slow startup of instruction, distraction, lengthy transition between classroom activities and others like I explained before. Therefore, time management and strategy are important in handling the situation. Okay, so let's say I give you two situations that related to the instructional time. For situation A, teacher Amin had class at building B, which is in the west, and teacher Amin next class is at 10 o'clock, which is in the east. Once reached the class, teacher Amin checked his student homework by calling their name one by one. For situation B, teacher Salma had class at building A, which is in the east, and teacher Salma next class is at 10 o'clock in the west. Once reached the class, teacher Salma checked her students' homework by telling the answer directly. From this observation, we can say that teacher Salma's strategy is successful. Why? This is because the way she managed the time for her class is visible. If we are in their situation, it takes a lot of time to go to the next class, right? Because from the east to west, west to east. So what teacher Salma did is good, as she did not consume too much time on checking on the students' homework and spend more on instructional activities. Like for teacher Amin, he spent too much time on non-instructional activities like checking his student homework one by one. If half of his students answer wrong, it will consume too much time more in correcting their answer. Therefore, we need to be wiseful like teacher Salma, as she consumed little time on the non-instructional activities because she know that time taken to go to the next class already consuming. Thus, she strategized well on her instructional activities. Got it, everyone? Okay, so like I said before, instructional time is linked with available time because instructional time is reduced time from available time. In my opinion, in instructional time, it is teacher's factor to manage time properly. This is because if teacher could not be there, no instructional class will be happen because it is the time to engage the students in the process of teaching and learning. Also, if teacher spend too much time on non-instructional activities like taking attendance, distributing materials, collecting homework, punish misbehaving students, these activities can consume a lot of time. Another factor that may affect how much class time teachers spend on instructional is also related to the students' composition in the classroom. For example, according to COP 2019, if the number of pupils in a classroom with students with disability is higher, the amount of time the instructor may spend teaching may be impacted. Thus, to the extent that students with disabilities are placed in classrooms with other struggling students without disabilities, this may pose additional challenges for teachers, including how to manage the class time. Let's proceed to the next type of time, which is engaged time. So, what is engaged time? Engaged time is also known as time on task. And the definition for engaged time is the time that students spend on working attentively on academic tasks. Basically, engaged time is the portion of instructional time that students spend directly involved in learning activities. For example, if you are teaching in the class and your students are not focused on your teaching and you just ignore them. To be honest, it is our job to facilitate the students so that they engage in the learning process. As a teacher, we cannot ignore them, as it is our concern to make them incorporate with skills and knowledge. Therefore, in order to grab their attention, we as teachers must do our best in teaching processes so that the students will not be distracted. That is why the amount of time we as teacher devoted to instruction is higher than the amount of students directly engaged in learning, because we need to have skills in managing the classroom to get the students involved in the learning process. So, engaged time is relates with instructional time. In engaged time, in my opinion, it is from the student factor. Why? This is because the time in managing the classroom is affected by the students, as the teachers are teaching, but the students did not paying attention. Also, students' attitude towards school and subject matter, time of day, and day of week also include the factors. According to the textbook by Rosenstein in 1980, the fact that students tend to be on task is about 70% of the time, and another 30% could be the distraction students face, like staring out of the windows. Thus, teachers need to have more skill in instructional strategies, requiring students to be active in engaging in the classroom. As stated by Sims et al. 2020, higher level of students' engagement and social competency are connected to effective classroom management. Therefore, teachers must play their role well in order to engage students to involve more during the classroom session. So, we have come to the last types of time, which is productive time. Bear with me, okay? Okay, so what is productive time? According to the textbook, productive learning time is the amount of time that students are doing work that is meaningful and appropriate. For example, in a secondary school, science teacher asks their students to spend 10 minutes on coloring a worksheet that shows diagram of human parts of the body. The student seems very absorbed and focused in completing the task. However, my question is the student having a productive learning time? Well, from my point of view, of course, the activity that the student make is not productive, as we don't know the purpose of the activities. Why coloring activity should be worthwhile in secondary school, don't you think so? Okay, so productive learning time also refers to that portion of engaged time that students spend working at an appropriate level of difficulty for them and experiencing high level of success. It also excludes engaged time that is spent on tasks that are too easy or too difficult. Therefore, achieving high level of classroom productivity means making sure students are interested and invested in tasks that develop higher order thinking and problem solving abilities. So, how much time is there anyway for the productive time? Let's check it out one by one. For mandated time, we know that this is the time that has been allocated for each period. So let's say in 1 year, we have 180 days in a school, and for one period that will be allocated for 32 minutes. So the total of mandated time in a school year is about 126 hours per year. For available time, after we minus the students absent and the event that organized by the school, we assume that the time is reduced about 10 days. So 10 days times 42 minutes, the available time will be 119 hours per year. Next is instructional time. Let's say the time taken for taking attendance or passing the material in the classroom already consumed about 22% of the period time. Then the instructional time will leave in only 34 minutes from 42 minutes. Then the instructional time will be 96 hours per year. Next is engaged time. Let's say the students who engage in the class is only 80%, then the time will be 77 hours per year. The last one is productive time. Let's say the student that work on meaningful and appropriate work is just 80%. So the productive learning time will be only 62 hours per year. So if you look at the graph, this is what I explained before. From the graph, we can assume that the productive time is the 1/2 of the minute time school per year. To answer the question on how much time is there anyway for a productive time, the time for productive learning time is only about 62 hours per year, which is half of the mandated time that has been allocated for the school. That is why it is very important to us as future teachers to know how to increase students' learning by using effective strategies which will be explained by the next speaker, which are Mr. Faziman, Miss Shakira, and Miss Rafi'ah. So I think that's all from me. Let's proceed to the next presenter, which is Mr. Faziman. Thank you.
Thank you Bushra and Murshid for presenting about the types of time. Assalamualaikum and good afternoon everyone. Now I am Faziman and I am going to present about how to increase the students' hours of learning. Okay, there are three strategies to increase the student hours of learning, which are maintaining activity flow, minimize transition time, and hold students accountable. I will be explaining about the first point, which is maintaining activity flow, and four other two points will be explained by Shakira and Rafi'ah. So, how to maintain activity flow of learning? Firstly, teachers need to avoid flip-flopping. Second, avoid stimulus-bonded events. And lastly, avoid overdwelling and fragmentation. I will explain the definition and examples of these 3 points. Okay, what is flip-flopping? Flip-flopping is when a teacher end an activity, start another activity, and then return to first activity. For example of situation is when a biology teacher teaching a biology topic about human heart. Suddenly in the middle of teaching session, the teacher remember about homeworks from previous class session and ask the student whether they finish the homeworks or not. After receive the student respond, the teacher continue again with the lesson. The situation is what we call as flip-flopping. Okay, next, what is stimulus-bounded events? Stimulus-bounded event is when a teacher pull away from the ongoing activity by a stimulus, which is an event or object that really doesn't need attention. For example of situation is when a teacher teaching in front of the class and suddenly the teacher notice a particular student have a bad posture when taking notes. Then the teacher go to the student, instruct the student to sit up straight, give comment to improve the student posture, and then continue again with the lesson. This situation is what we call as stimulus bounded events. Okay, the last point is overdwelling and fragmentation. Overdwelling is when a teacher continuing to explain when student already understand or preaching at length about appropriate. For example of situation in a lab is when the teacher keep repeatedly reminding the student to wash the lab equipment and the lab workspace, even though the student already know what to do. This is what we call overdwelling. Next is fragmentation. Fragmentation is when a teacher breaks an activity into components, even though the activity could be performed as single unit. For example, we continue from the lab situation. After finish the lab session, there is some spare time. So the teacher asks the student to do tutorials, even though the tutorials can be done during the next class. This is what we call as fragmentation. So in a conclusion, teacher need to avoid these 3 situations to maintain activity flow in order to increase the student hours of learning. If the 3 situations are avoided, teaching and learning activity can be proceed smoothly and efficiently. I hope my presentation can be useful to all of you. I think that's all from me. Let's proceed to the next presenter. Thank you.
Hi, I am Shakira and now we will discuss the next step on how to increase hours of learning, which is minimizing transition time. So what is transition time? Transition time is actually the time gap between any activities in the classroom that usually managed by the teacher. Transition time is very important because it helps the student to understand the flows of the lesson and also as simple as to keep them focused on the teacher. But according to GUM in the textbook, there are several problems in minimizing transition time. The first one is the teacher find that it is difficult to stop the engagement with the first activity. For example, if the student is too focused on the first activity, they tend to abandon the next activity in the classroom. The next one is transitions are loosely structured, then the activities is also one of the problems in minimizing transition time. The third one is students tend to save up problems or tensions and deal with them during transition time. For example, they are complaining about their grades to the teacher and also asking permission to retrieve their books from the locker. Not only that, delays in getting the students started on the next activity is also one of the problem in minimizing transition time. So, in order to reduce the problem, GUM already suggested a few steps for the teachers to use, which are advanced preparation, the use of transition routines, and having a clear beginnings and endings. So the first step is having advanced preparation, which teacher need to plan ahead any flow of activities before conducting in classroom. For example, teacher can give one worksheet to every student for them to complete it in a range of time, while having one-to-one consultation with each student. The student need also to be informed the time left so that they can stay focused, and other can have the personal consultation with the teacher. The next one is the use of transition routines. Teacher need to use a clear and specific routine to run the classroom smoothly. For example, like the teacher need to always tell the student to straight away to do their exercise in their books within the first 20 minutes of each lesson. So by several weeks, the student will adapt with the routine and they tend to do that without any instruction to do so. So it helps to prevent confusion and time loss. And the last step is having a clear beginnings and endings. Here, teacher need to give a clear and specific instruction before starting any activities. For example, teacher need to grab the attention by using, "Can I have your attention and please do not move until I finish my instruction?" These words can help the student to keep focus on what teacher said, even though the instruction is long. So the student will pay attention to all the instruction even though it is long without any distraction. So that's all from me. Thank you.
Hi, good morning everyone. So in my turn, I will explain about how to hold students accountable. So here, I divided into 5 ways in how to hold students accountable. First of all is communicate assignment and requirement clearly. Second, monitor students' progress. Third, coordinate with special services to schedule pull-outs to minimize disruption. Fourth, establish routines for collecting and checking classwork and homework. Last but not least, if maintaining good records. So I will proceed with communicate assignment and requirements clearly and monitor student progress first. So as a teacher, teachers need to explain what students have to know prior to begin their works. For example, the teacher should explain what the student will be doing and why they should be doing so. Next, how the student to get help. Next is what to do with completed their works, what to do when students are finished their works, and how long the student will be spending on the certain task that given by the teacher. So next, proceed with communicate assignment and requirement clearly and monitor student progress too. Okay, the second one is teacher has to ensure that their students are familiar with their work standard. For example, what the type of paper to use that are required by the teacher, whether they should use pencil or pen to do their work, how to number the page, next whether or not to erasers are allowed, and last but not least, what it means to show all their work after they completing their work. So next we proceed with the third way, which is coordinate with special services to schedule pull-outs and to minimize disruption. So in this way, create a schedule showing when various students are present and when whole class is together. Next, second, establish a policy for having students who are pulled out complete work that they miss. Next, we will proceed to the fourth way in how to hold the students accountable, which is establish routines for collecting and checking classwork and homework. First way is teacher need to monitor whether students are regularly completing their assignments. Second, two different approaches had been made by Donnie and Sandy. So I will explain more details about how Donnie and Sandy doing in their classes. So in Donnie's class, the student take out their homework and put it on their table. So the teacher will go through with the homework. Next, she circulates around the room and notes in her grade book. And the third way is whole procedure takes just a few minutes and no loss of instructional time. For Sandy class or Sandy ways, she keeps a folder on the front table in each classes. So the students will place the assignments in the folder. Then the teacher give a last call for homework. Next, Sandy will check the papers to verify immediately either students fail to submit or not. Next, last but not least, the way how to hold students accountable is by maintaining good records. Teachers has two options, either to develop their own system for recording students' progress or to follow prescribed format. So here I stated two ways on how Donnie's and Fred maintain their good records. First, we take a look at Donnie's way. She reflects her weekly lessons plan and the quarterly topic plans to submit. Meanwhile, in Fred's way, he allows to develop his own record-keeping system. That's all from me. So next, we proceed with the next presenter. Thank you.
Hello everyone, I am Aisha, and now we will continue on the last part of this chapter, which is block scheduling. Please bear with us until the end of the presentation, okay? So, have you ever heard about block scheduling? What is block scheduling? Well, block scheduling is a type of academic scheduling in which each student has fewer class per day with extended class period. Actually, for your information, block scheduling has been in existence since the late of 1960, but became popularized in school system in the late of 1980 as a means to provide an alternative schedule to the traditional period system. Well, it is basically an approach to replace the traditional scheduling system. Well, I bet all of you had experienced the traditional scheduling, right? So basically, in traditional scheduling, students need to attend 45 to 60-minute classes that meet at the same hour every school day. Meanwhile, block scheduling are not. There are two types of block scheduling, which are 4x4 block schedule and AB block schedule. So let us dig in one by one. First, we will look into 4x4 block schedule. In this block schedule, a school year is divided into 2 semesters. Well, students take only 4 courses at a time, which 4 courses every day at the same hour in semester 1 and different set of 4 courses every day at the same hour in semester 2. This means there are 4 80 to 90 minutes instructional block schedule each day for one semester or for 90 days. For example, as you can see in the slide, in semester 1, the student will take 4 courses which are mathematics, biology, English and physics. So, in semester 2, they will take 4 different courses which are chemistry, health, art and also history. So all of these courses are being taught for about 80 to 90 minutes every day in each semester. Now, let us move on to the second type of block schedule, which is AB block schedule, or also known as alternating day schedule. So, alternating day or AB block scheduling consists of a similar schedule to 4x4 scheduling system, but rather than adjusting this schedule by semester, students will take 6 to 8 courses per year. Every day, students will take 3 or 4 90 to 120 minutes courses on alternating days throughout the school year. As for example here, the student take 8 courses per year, which is divided into 2 blocks, Block A and Block B. Block A consists of art, physics, English and mathematics classes, while Block B consists of biology, health, chemistry and history classes. Well, to make it clear, if in Monday, students have Block A courses, then on the next day, which is Tuesday, students will be on Block B courses. And On Wednesday, the student will have the Block A courses again. These A and B days will continue to alternate throughout the year. So, I hope you are clear regarding both types of block schedule. Since you have clear about block scheduling system, now we move on to the advantages of block scheduling. First and foremost, by implementing this schedule, there will be more instructional time for the teachers. As mentioned by Bushra, instructional time is the actual time for a teacher teaching in the classroom. So, rather than just having 40 to 50 minutes in traditional scheduling system, teachers have more time to complete lesson plan, to examine and to re-evaluate practices in block scheduling system. Next, with block scheduling system, instructional time is less fragmented as there is less transition between classes. Fewer distinct classes means less time spent on classroom management activities such as calling attendance, organizing, and focusing the class. It helps the teacher and student to maximize time for learning and teaching session. Moving on, block scheduling will result in more relaxed school climate. This is because students have less classes each day, which eventually help them to explore topics in more depth. Plus, decreased number of classes and longer class period help to develop a deeper interpersonal relationship between student and also the teachers. This is because teachers get to know student more personally, which enables them to adapt lesson to the interests of their student that are integral to academic success. Moving on, block scheduling also decrease hallway traffic. Since there is less classes for each day, there will be less movement for teachers and students to exchange classes. Well, decreasing the number of passing period reduces opportunity for distraction. As saying goes, less is more. Another advantage of block scheduling is it provides opportunity for the use of varied instructional strategies. Because of the longer time period, more variety instructional activities such as cooperative learning, student inquiry-based, and team teaching can be implemented by the teacher in the classroom, which will make the student more engaged in the teaching and learning session. Apart from that, a study reported that block scheduling can improve academic achievement for both high and poor achievers by allowing for additional remedial and enrichment opportunities. No doubt, block schedule provide more time for them to explore the courses. However, there are also several issues or concerns arise in implementing this block schedule in school system. First, according to a study by Olsen in 2020, there is lack of proper teaching training in implementing block scheduling system. Well, some teachers are unable to plan their teaching approach wisely. Instead, they just give lecture to the student for the whole period. This is bad as students tend to lose focus when teaching approach are not suitable for them. The block system is doomed if teachers are not properly prepared to utilize a longer class period effectively. So, adequate teacher preparation and professional development are crucial elements that are necessary for developing the use of varied teaching techniques in school system. Furthermore, block scheduling also makes the slow learner student unable to cope with the lesson. Since the class period are extended, students need to focus more on the syllabus to avoid misunderstanding throughout the learning and teaching session. However, slow learner students will be affected as they tend to easily lose focus and unable to cope with the teaching pace. Plus, when students are absent, they lose the amount of time used for learning and may have more difficult time to catch up later. Another issue arises is block scheduling does not have significant impact on academic achievement. According to Missouri in 2019, in his study, there was no significant difference in the average GPA between students with traditional scheduling system and block scheduling system. Thus, this system needs to be explored more before implemented. Schools need to identify which system suitable for their students. Lastly, based on a study by Holly and Park in 2017, block scheduling can increase discipline problems. Why? This is because longer class period make the student bored and lose their interest to study, thus lead to disciplinary issue. So to summarize, block scheduling does not always result in effective parent instruction that proponent envision. So I think that's all from me. Thank you.
So, we have come to the end of this seminar presentation today. Our speakers for today's presentation had already explained well on the making the most of classroom time. I hope all of you able to understand their explanation. So, in conclusion, effective time management is one of the skills necessary for success in school as well as in everyday life and in the work world. Therefore, by using time wisely, teachers can maximize opportunities for learning and minimize occasion for disruption in their classroom. Teachers who effectively manage their time give their students the best opportunity to learn and to develop personal habits that lead to wise use of time. Think about how much time is being spent on meaningful and appropriate work in the room and how much time is being eaten up by business and clerical tasks. Students need time to practice, rehearse, review, apply, and connect new learning and relate it to their everyday lives. Also, be aware that the numbers of hours available for instruction are much fewer than they first appear. That's all for our seminars today. Hope you get a lot of new knowledge today. Thank you everyone.